loves, and welcome back to my channel where we once again engage in discourse about feminism, about the current status quo of our country in terms of where we are at achieving gender equality and achieving all the goals that our constitution and every other legislative body has set out to further emancipate all South African women. And I'm so glad you guys came back. I really hope that you like, comment and subscribe down below after watching this video, because today we're going to talk about something that has been so prevalent, so pertinent in our country, and it's been part of a conversation. But what has disappointed me is the fact that the topic that I'm going to talk about today came up, a few weeks ago, but we in our country sort of suffer from this temporary amnesia, where we go so crazy and we're so hyped up about a topic the minute it comes up, then the next week a new story pops up and we've all of a sudden forgotten that, hey, a woman was beat up, or hey, a woman was raped. And so today I just want to remind us of certain things that have been happening in our country and how this links to the continued and sustained abuse, exploitation, subjugation, oppression, and all these other bad things that happen to South African women. But before I get into today's content, I just want to thank everyone for subscribing and watching my first video. Yesterday I checked the views on my first video and I had like 900 and something views, and I already have 211 subscribers. And honestly speaking, it's not something that I expected. It was so unprecedented. But yet again, I'm just so thankful for all of you who are supporting me and are, for the cause of feminism and for the notion of women empowerment, because it really gives purpose to what I do. It would be pointless for me to sit here and talk for 20 minutes about the struggles of women if no one actually could resonate with it or identify with it. So I'm actually so thankful. I'm so grateful, and I really do hope that my channel grows and I have continued support, because really this would mean nothing if there was no one out there that could identify with what I talk about and hopefully adopt the philosophy of feminism into their daily lives, so that we ultimately have the development of our society one step at a time to create a better future for our daughters, so that our daughters don't have to live through the struggles that we as females in present day South Africa have to live through. But let's get to today's content. So I just want to shock you here a bit with one fact. It's a fact that a woman in South Africa is murdered every 4 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4. Every 4 hours in our country, a female is murdered. Just let that sink in for a bit. Let that play with your mind. Let that shake you, let that unravel you, let that disturb you. Because if it doesn't disturb you, then I am very concerned about the future of our country and the future of the leaders that we're gonna have. Because with this fact that has been stated out, it's scary how nothing much is being done to obliterate this, to stop the culture of femicide, to stop the culture of abuse when it comes to women. And that's why this video is linked directly to women abuse. And when I read this stat, or when I heard the stat yesterday, as I was watching a few videos on YouTube, I was watching the big debate. It's a show that I think every single South African citizen should watch if you want to be conscientized and if you want to stay aware of what is happening in our country today. And upon hearing this fact, it just took me back to this whole concept of toxic masculinity. And I think it's something that is so prevalent in South African communities today, because we've built this idea of masculinity on a totally warped, totally misguided premise that it has resulted in men thinking that they have this sort of power that allows them and that justifies their violence and their actions towards women. We've cultured masculinity as men being emotionless, men being these strong people that aren't shaken by vulnerability, and we've attached so many of these cold and clinical connotations to masculinity that we've ended up raising boys that are not humans. you know, and it's so sad to watch how men, especially in, I don't want to generalize, but in townships, in rural areas, and even sometimes, you know, suburbs and upmarket areas, where men walk around with this inhumane element in them, all in the name of patriarchy, all in the name of being a man. And I think it's time for us to stop defining manhood as you being strong, emotionless, you being able to financially support your family, and all these other, you know, connotations that we've put behind manhood in our country, and actually come to realize that the minute we start raising girls and boys in the same way, we are well on our way to obliterating toxic masculinity. Because majority of the times when women are abused or they're killed by the significant other, it's always from a mindset and a paradigm of toxic masculinity. A man thinking that for him to assert his position and for him to assert his opinion, he needs to express that in a violent way. He needs to manifest that in a way that will either oppress or silence or subjugate the significant other or any other female around them. And so if I repeat the stats, every 4 hours a woman in our country is murdered. And if you look at the idea of toxic masculinity, clearly there is an inextricable link between the two. And the minute we work on changing the way we raise South African men, I think that will have a direct impact on how we're able to progress as a country, and to obliterate this whole culture of having to express your manhood through you being violent and through you being the man of the house, or through you being assertive. Because at the end of the day, that's not being a human being. A human being should be compassionate. A human being should be, you know, aware of their surroundings and live for the goodness of all people. And that's why it shocks me when people say that feminism isn't relevant. What does feminism do for women and for men? But if you look at the philosophies behind it, it's so directly relevant, and it provides amazing solutions for ending things like femicide. And I think that the whole concept of toxic masculinity brings me back to the fact that the more we try to encourage men to become feminists, the more effective the feminist movement will be, and the more effective all these amazing policies and legislation set out by the Constitution, by the Commission for Gender Equality, will be more effective. The more we try and educate men instead of preaching the gospel to women already, which is kind of pointless. The people that do need to be converted and do need a whole paradigm shift are men, and I think that's where our country needs to base their resources on, to obliterate this ludicrous mentality of toxic masculinity. And now this brings me to my second point of how government has dismally failed the women of South Africa. This morning at like 2 o'clock, I spent a good hour watching the budget speech, because initially when Minister Tito Mboweni delivered it, I really didn't watch it or I'd pay attention to it really closely until I watched the big debate yesterday. And one of the ladies that were, you know, talking about gender inequality in our country mentioned the fact that our minister didn't state anywhere in his budget speech that there'd be a certain amount of funds allocated to campaigns or projects or anything that is, you know, centered around educating people about gender equality, programs that uplift women, programs that give women skills to ultimately give them financial freedom, and all these other things that will come as a domino effect. And so when I heard that, I was like, what? Like, what? How can they not prioritize this? And then I actually spent a good hour, 2 o'clock this morning, watching the budget speech and hearing the minister talk about all these other issues like corruption that our country is going to have to fight, and allocation of funds to that, and obviously things like education, which are important. I'm not going to, you know, invalidate that, and many other things that will be prioritized in our budget. But nowhere in there did I hear a certain amount of funds that's going to go to the Commission for Gender Equality, or X, Y, and Z is going to go to a project that's, you know, aimed at uplifting women in a community in South Africa. And so those type of things, and that inherent disregard for the plight of women in our country and that dismissive nature of it made me realize how, as a country, we're not even committed to trying to, fulfill the mandate of uplifting women. Yes, we have a beautiful constitution that aims at creating a non-sexist society. But when not enough efforts are being made on the part of government to obliterate and completely demolish all of the societal dogma behind, gender inequality, then it makes me question the worldly view and our national view of the plight of women. Just yesterday, we heard of Babes Odumo being, beat up by her significant other, which is Mampinja. I can guarantee you now, most of you have forgotten about that. I'm just gonna give you 3 seconds of a moment of silence to actually ask yourself, okay, when the story came out, everyone was hyped, everyone, condemned Mampinja, everyone said this and that, and it's been a few weeks now, and we've all forgotten again. Amnesia that our country, has, and that's all centered around not taking the plight of women seriously. And so if an explicit statement is not being said in Parliament about obliterating gender equality and allocating funds to projects that aim at doing that, then if at national level no one takes it seriously, I can guarantee you that as we go down the hierarchy into your normal, average, everyday South African, they're not going to take it seriously, And again, as I was watching the big debates yesterday, that episode allowed for different political parties to send representatives of their parties to come speak on their behalf. So there was the ANC, there was the DA, there was the EFF, and all of the representatives were males. All of them were males. And I actually took down a very, shocking statistic about this. And I don't have the exact stats with me right now, but it basically stated that out of all of the mayors in our country, there's about 236 positions, or somewhere around that number, if I'm not mistaken. And out of all those positions, 166 positions, mayoral positions, are taken up by males, and a good 90 something is only taken up by females. Again, the numbers say it all. We can have endless rhetoric about having more women in leadership, having more women in executive positions, and we can have all these forums and summits and discussions about it, but the numbers speak for themselves, and the numbers tell us that, again, women aren't given the confidence, women aren't given that space to thrive, to show the world that women are as capable of, taking up leadership positions as males would. Again, it just comes from a lack of prioritizing women in every sphere in our country, and unfortunately it has been the foundation that has been laid out by our very patriarchal society, and I think that our government needs to show a commitment to it. If the ANC, if the EFF, if the DA wants us to go out in May and vote for their parties and for their manifestos, what are they saying about the plight of women? And most people won't even take it into regard, because they'll notice things like education, fighting corruption, which I think is a waste of funds. If we had honest leaders, and I'm not going to get into that now, not the time, not the place, but if we actually saw the importance of fighting against gender inequality in our country, those are the things we'd look for within the frameworks of each political party, and ask them, how committed are you to building a better South Africa for our future daughters one day? Okay, so fact number 2 that I think will shock everyone says only 1 out of 10 accused of domestic violence in our country is convicted. 1 out of 10 accused people of domestic violence are convicted. Just think about that. Let it play with your mind. Let it sift in. Upon hearing that, I automatically, again, I'm going to make reference to the the case of Mampintsha and Babes Wodumo, and how our justice system has failed its women. If this is the level of commitment to cases that deal with women that have been abused, goes to, if this is the amount of effort that our judicial and judiciary system can make to fight certain cases like this, then it just shows me that, again, we have this nonchalant attitude towards the cases of women and the plight of women in our country. Just yesterday I read that Mampintsha got away with his case on 2,000 rand bail. 2,000 rand. 2,000 rand. That alone is so degrading to the human life of a female, because if my oppressor, if my abuser can get away with such little repercussions in this country, then really, who is fighting for me? Who is on my side? That's the question I asked myself, and it made me so livid when I heard that. And following that story, just not so long ago, DJ Thira was seen posting a video of him on Twitter, dancing and vibing to a song by Mampintsha with 2 other females in the background. Now, if you're going to say that you don't support the actions of a certain person that you are affiliated with, but then 2 days later you're seen, dancing to his music, what confused message are you sending to our country? To people that have been abused, to women that have undergone that sort of subjugation. It's like a person saying they don't support what Adolf Hitler did to Jews back in Nazi Germany, but then they're walking around with the t-shirt with the Nazi emblem on it, and they're like, yes, I don't support Adolf Hitler, but I'm wearing a shirt that directly has the Nazi Germany sign. You are a living, walking paradox, contradiction, oxymoron, every word I can think of to describe a contradiction. And again, it just sends a message. It just sends a message about how in almost every facet in our country, whether it's entertainment, whether it's political, whether it's business, whether it's domesticated, no one cares about how women are being abused on a daily basis. If you can still support that person's music, if you can still, support that person's political position or whatever sphere it is, but yet you claim to be so against the abuse of women, what mixed message are you sending? And it really just shows the true nature and attitude of people towards issues that affect women and women abuse, and how people really don't take these issues seriously. And we like to think that because we have all these beautiful laws and legislation, women have nothing to worry about, and women are just, again, complaining or seeking attention, and they're being unreasonable. But when we have these sort of facts and these sort of statistics, then clearly there is a problem. And I'm urging government, I'm urging society, I'm urging business people to take heed of this and to take measurable steps in actually combating all of these issues, because it's not something that can continue on for an extended period of time. Otherwise, really, we will find ourselves in a position where we're trying to unwind and undo years of patriarchal actions and doings, and at that stage it'll be so hard because everyone's minds will already be indoctrinated into thinking in a certain way. And so, after reading all these stats and all these facts, I was just really shaken by the position that our country finds ourselves in, and the fact that even at governmental and national level, those patriarchal structures still exist. Sends out a huge message of how, if we want to get to the average man in his household, and if we want to change his paradigm and try to obliterate toxic masculinity, it's going to take a long time and copious and onerous efforts if our national body isn't setting the example. And so I just want you to be really cognizant of the unwavering and really disturbing facts that I've stated out today, and think about how how your position and your existence in society has an effect on the next woman or the next girl, whether you're in a relationship, whether you're a husband, whether you're a brother, whether you're a significant male figure. Look at your position in our country and ask yourself, has the way that I have been brought up all these years been to the benefits or to the detriment of the next female that is significant in my life? And if you can feel that it has been at the detriment of the females that are significant in your life, change it. Change your mindset. Because if we clearly can't depend on a government to even allocate a budget or state explicitly that they aim at providing X, Y, and Z to certain projects to uplift certain women in a community, if we can't even count on that, then we might as well be accountable for our own actions and try our very best to make sure that we create a world that is safe for our women, that is safe for our children and our daughters, so that we don't have to live with scary rape statistics, we don't have to live with scary domestic violence statistics, and that we could be well on our way to actually creating a safer environment for our women. Not paying lip service, not paying a weak rant on Twitter about it, but actually implementing it in our day-to-day lives as a country. And so that is what I wanted to basically vent about, because I was just incredibly angry when I watched the budget speech and watched the big debates last night. And I think that the more we talk about these issues, the more they become less taboo and the more we actually take them seriously. So all in all, thank you guys for watching this video, and I really do hope that you comment, engage with me. If you have different opinions, if you have different solutions, let me know, comment, and we'll have a conversation about it, because all the efforts that I put in, the people that other feminists put in this country, is to stir a conversation about gender inequality and to break the stereotypes around it, so that everyone feels comfortable and that everyone feels safe about talking about it. But thank you for watching this video, and again, I hope you like, comment, and subscribe down below. I will see you next time, and thank you for tuning in. Bye. Mwah.